She mocked my vernacular schooling in front of her elite friends. I just smiled. Later that night, I took a call in fluent Japanese with an investor. The $2 million deal I closed for my unsophisticated startup left her and her snobbish friends absolutely speechless. I, 28 male, met Prisha, 27, at a tech conference 18 months ago. She was presenting for her consulting firm, all polished PowerPoints and MBA buzzwords. I was there pitching my startup, a translation software that helps small businesses go global. We hit it off despite our different backgrounds. She went to an international school, then an Ivy League college. I went to a vernacular medium school in my hometown, then a state university. Never thought it would matter. I was wrong. For the first year, things were good. She'd occasionally make comments about my unique background or how refreshing it was that I was self-made. But I brushed it off. Red flag number 1. Looking back. The real issue started when I began getting traction with my startup. We'd developed an AI-powered real-time translation tool specifically for business negotiations. Nothing Google Translate level. We focused on context, cultural nuances, business terminology. Small market, but profitable. Prisha's attitude shifted when my monthly revenue hit $50K. Suddenly, she was full of advice about how I needed to present myself better and network with the right people, meaning her people. The international school crowd. The kids who vacationed in Switzerland and had trust funds. The incident that changed everything happened at her friend Ria's engagement party 3 weeks ago. Ria was marrying some investment banker, and the party was at this rooftop venue that probably cost more than my annual rent. Prisha introduced me to her circle. Rhea, Arman, hedge fund guy, Tanya, fashion startup funded by Daddy, and Dev, consultant like Prisha. The conversation started innocent enough. Where did you study? What do you do? Usual stuff. Then Arman asked about my educational background. State University, I said. Computer science. Oh, but before that, St. Stephen's, Cathedral, Mayo? He was listing elite schools. Nah, went to a vernacular medium school, back home. The silence was loud. Tanya actually gasped, like I'd admitted to crime or something. Prisha laughed nervously. He's being modest. He's actually very intelligent despite, he's proof that talent can come from anywhere. Despite, Ria jumped in. That's so inspiring. It must have been so hard to overcome that disadvantage. How did you even learn proper English? Books, internet, practice. Same way I learned Japanese, Mandarin, and Spanish. They exchanged looks. That sure buddy look. Dev smirked. Right? And I speak fluent French because I watched Netflix with subtitles. Everyone laughed. Even Prisha. Show them your app, she said, but her tone was patronizing, like showing off a child's crayon drawing. I pulled out my phone, demonstrated the real-time translation feature. They were politely dismissive. Cute, Tanya said. Like Google Translate, but smaller? It's actually quite different, I started. I'm sure it does well in, what do you call it? Tier 2 markets? Arman interrupted. Actually, our biggest clients are in Tokyo and Singapore. More exchanged glances. More disbelief. The final straw was when Prisha said, you know what's adorable? He actually thinks he can scale this without proper VC backing or an MBA. That vernacular school confidence. They all laughed. I smiled and excused myself to get a drink. At the bar, my phone buzzed. Email from Yamamoto-san, my biggest potential client. He wanted to schedule a call for that evening, midnight IST, perfect for Tokyo morning. This was the call, the one that could change everything. I went back to the group. They were still discussing my cute little translation project and how I needed proper guidance to make it legitimate. Actually, I said, speaking of the business, I need to take an important call in about an hour. Mind if I use the balcony when it comes through? Prisha rolled her eyes. His important calls? Probably some freelance client paying him an exposure. More laughter. I kept smiling. 45 minutes later, I stepped onto the balcony. The party was in full swing inside, but the balcony was quiet, perfect for a call. Yamamoto-san called exactly at midnight. What Prisha and her friends didn't know was that I'd been working with his company, a major electronics manufacturer, for 6 months on a trial basis. They loved our software. This call was to finalize an enterprise contract. Moshi Moshi, Yamamoto-san. Ogenki desu ka? I answered. We conducted the entire negotiation in Japanese. 20 minutes of discussing terms, implementation timelines, support structures. My Japanese wasn't just good, it was business-level fluent. 3 years of self-study, online tutors, and practice with actual Japanese clients. Through the glass doors, I could see Prisha and her friends watching. They'd obviously expected a quick call in broken English. Instead, they were watching me conduct complex business negotiations in fluent Japanese, occasionally switching to Mandarin when discussing the Chinese market expansion. The terms Yamamoto-san offered were beyond my best projections. $2 million for a 3-year enterprise license, plus $500 for customization and training. They wanted exclusive rights for the Japanese market, which I negotiated up to $2.5 million total. Arigato gozaimashita, Yamamoto-san. We have a deal. I hung up and stood there for a moment, letting it sink in. $2.5 million. My cute little translation project just landed its biggest deal. When I walked back inside, the entire group was staring. Were you speaking Japanese? Dev asked. Yeah, client call. But you went to a vernacular school. Tanya said, like this was impossible. And Prisha tried to recover. He probably just memorized a few phrases, for show. I pulled up the email Yamamoto-san sent immediately after our call, confirming the terms, in Japanese and English. $2.5 million contract value was right there in bold. Holy, Armand started. That's not possible, Prisha said, grabbing my phone. This has to be fake. It's not. That's why I needed the call. We've been negotiating for months. The silence was different now. Hungry. Calculating. Update 1. The aftermath of the party was interesting. First, Prisha went into damage control mode. On the ride home, she was all sweetness. Baby, I'm so proud of you. I always knew you had potential. I was just pushing you to be better. Gaslighting 101. Then came the requests. Could I introduce her to Yamamoto-san? Did I need help managing the contract? Maybe her consulting firm could partner with me? I'm good, I said. Don't be silly. You need professional help. You don't even have an MBA. How will you handle a contract this size? The same way I negotiated it, by being competent. She didn't like that. The next day, her friends started reaching out. Armand wanted to invest. Tanya thought we could collaborate. She wanted me to build her a free app. Dev offered consulting services for only 20% of revenue. I declined all of them. But here's where Prisha showed her true colors. She called her dad, who runs a mid-size IT services company. Suddenly, I was getting calls from his lawyers claiming my software violated some patent they held from 2015. Complete BS. I'd done my due diligence, and my code was clean. Prisha played innocent. I don't know why Daddy's doing this. Maybe if you partnered with him, he'd drop it? The threat was clear. Give them a piece, or they'd try to sue me into submission. I hired my own lawyer. Cost me $5,000, but worth it. Turns out, their patent was for a completely different type of software, not even close to translation. My lawyer sent them a cease and desist for harassment. But Prisha wasn't done. She started telling people I'd stolen the idea from her, that she'd given me the concept during Pillow Talk, and now I was cutting her out. She even posted a cryptic LinkedIn post about supporting partners who forget your contributions when they succeed. Some of her network started questioning my credibility. I lost 2 potential clients who'd heard concerns about my business practices. Then she made her biggest mistake. She reached out to Yamamoto-san directly. Update 2. I found out about Prisha contacting Yamamoto-san through the man himself. He forwarded me her email, confused and slightly offended. She'd written, in English, despite claiming she spoke Japanese. Dear Mr. Yamamoto, I'm Prisha, the strategic advisor and partner of the translation software you recently licensed. I wanted to ensure you're aware of the full team behind the product. While my partner may have been the technical lead, the business strategy and market positioning were my contributions. I think we should discuss restructuring the contract to reflect all stakeholders properly. Yamamoto-san's response to me was brief. Is this person associated with your company? No, she's my ex-girlfriend as of today. She has zero involvement in the business. I see. We value integrity and clarity in our partnerships. Please handle this matter. We would not want any complications. Translation. Fix this, or the deal might be at risk. I confronted Prisha that evening. She was at my apartment, still had a key, my mistake, with her laptop open, logged into my LinkedIn account, messaging my other clients. What the hell are you doing? Managing your relationships. You clearly can't handle them yourself. That vernacular school education didn't teach you professional communication. I grabbed my laptop. She'd sent messages to 5 clients suggesting restructuring to include her as a partner. She'd even created a fake email address similar to mine to send contracts listing her as co-founder. This is fraud, Prisha. It's business. I'm entitled to my share. I supported you, introduced you to the right people. You mocked me in front of your friends. I was helping you understand your limitations. The entitlement was staggering. I changed all my passwords immediately, enabled 2-factor authentication on everything, and documented all her fraudulent activities. Then I sent a clarification email to all affected clients with evidence of her deception. But Prisha had one more card to play. She filed a police complaint claiming I'd stolen $50,000 from her. Update 3. The police showed up at my office, really just a co-working space, with the complaint. Prisha claimed she'd invested $50,000 in my company and I was refusing to acknowledge it. The officer looked skeptical from the start. Sir, do you have records of this investment? Officer, I can show you every transaction in my business account. She's never given me a penny. In fact, here are receipts showing I paid for most of our dates. I showed him my books, complete financial records, every client payment, every expense. No $50,000 from Prisha anywhere. She says she gave you cash. $50,000 in cash? Who does that? And why would there be no documentation? The officer asked Prisha for proof. Bank withdrawals, witnesses, anything. She had nothing, just her word. When pressed, she changed her story 3 times. First, it was an investment. Then it was a loan. Then it was supporting his lifestyle while he built the company. The officer closed the complaint with a warning to her about filing false cases. But the damage was spreading. Some mutual friends believed her version. Her friend circle was posting about men who use women for success, then discard them. Fine, time to go nuclear. I compiled everything. Screenshots of her mocking my education, the fraudulent emails she sent to clients, the fake contract she created, her father's bogus legal threats, the false police complaint. Video from the party. Ria had live-streamed parts, including their mockery. I sent it all to her employer. Turns out, using company resources, her work laptop and email to conduct fraud is a fireable offense. Who knew? She got suspended pending investigation. Then I did something petty but satisfying. Remember how she said I couldn't scale without proper backing? I incorporated in Singapore, hired 2 developers from my old college, both vernacular medium educated, and launched our Japanese market product. First month revenue, $400K. I posted the milestone on LinkedIn. No mention of Prisha, just proud of what our small team of vernacular school graduates has achieved. Proof that talent exists everywhere, not just in ivory towers. It went viral in the startup community. 4,000 likes, 500 comments. Other vernacular school entrepreneurs started sharing their stories. It became a whole thing. Update 4, posted 2 months later. Prisha got fired, not just for the fraud attempt, but because the investigation uncovered she'd been inflating her client numbers and falsifying her expense reports. Turns out her elite education didn't include Ethics 101. Her father's company also distanced themselves after my lawyer threatened a defamation suit. He publicly stated they had no claims against my software. But here's where it gets interesting. Remember Yamamoto-san? He was so impressed with how I handled the situation that he introduced me to 3 other Japanese companies. All wanted similar contracts. Within 2 months, my annual recurring revenue hit $8 million. I hired more engineers, deliberately recruiting from vernacular schools and state colleges. Not as some revenge thing, but because I knew talent was everywhere. Plus, they were hungry, hardworking, and didn't have entitled attitudes. Prisha tried reaching out one more time, a long email about how she was going through a difficult time and how we could build an empire together if I just forgot the misunderstandings. I replied with one line. My vernacular education taught me to recognize a scam. Her elite friends? Armand's fund is struggling. Turns out he was just a junior analyst, not the big shot he pretended to be. Tanya's fashion startup folded after Daddy cut off funding when he discovered she'd blown $200K on marketing. Read, parties. Dev is still a consultant, still talking about his big ideas that never materialize. Ria actually reached out to apologize. Her marriage fell apart when she discovered her investment banker husband was broke and in debt. She said the party incident opened her eyes to how toxic their circle was. We're not friends, but I appreciated the gesture. Final update? It's been 6 months since that party. Time for a final update. My company just closed Series A funding, $15 million at a $60 million valuation. The lead investor? A Japanese VC fund that Yamamoto-san introduced me to. They specifically liked that we weren't another Silicon Valley clone, but had genuine innovation from unexpected places. We're 50 employees now, 70% from vernacular schools or state colleges. We have offices in 3 cities and are expanding to South Korea and Indonesia. Prisha isn't doing well. After getting fired, she tried to start her own consulting firm, but word had gotten out about her ethics issues. No clients materialized. Last I heard, she was working at her dad's company, but not in any serious capacity. More like a pity position. She made one last attempt at relevance. Posted a long Medium article about the toxicity of tech bros who forget their roots. It was obviously about me, claiming I'd become arrogant and forgotten who helped me succeed. Nobody cared. It got 12 views. 3 were probably her mom, and her dad. The best part? My youngest developer, Karthik, is from a village school, learned coding from YouTube. He just built a feature that Yamamoto-san called revolutionary. Kid's 22 and probably the best engineer I've ever worked with. I gave him a spot bonus of $10,000 in stock options. When he asked why I took a chance on him despite his background, I told him the truth. Because someone's school doesn't determine their worth, their work does. We launched a scholarship program last month. Full ride sponsorships for 5 vernacular school students to learn coding. The selection criteria? Hunger to learn, nothing else. Prisha's LinkedIn still says, strategic consultant at leading firm. The leading firm is her dad's company. Her last post about authentic leadership got 7 likes, all family members. Meanwhile, my cute little translation project just got featured in TechCrunch. The headline? How a vernacular school graduate built a global translation empire. They interviewed me about overcoming educational prejudice. I mentioned the party incident without naming names, just said, some people thought my background meant I couldn't succeed. They confused privilege with potential. That article? 50,000 views and counting. Yesterday I got a text from an unknown number. It was Prisha. I see you've done well. I always knew you would. I didn't respond, but I did smile. Not because I'd won some competition, but because I'd proven what I always knew. Talent doesn't care about your school's language medium. It doesn't care about your accent or your connections. It just cares that you show up and do the work. My vernacular education taught me that. Apparently, her elite education didn't. Anyway, gotta go. Flying to Tokyo tomorrow to sign 3 more contracts in Japanese, which I learned from YouTube and practice, not from some fancy international school. To everyone from non-traditional backgrounds reading this, your education doesn't define your ceiling, your effort does. And to those who think otherwise, well, the view from my unsophisticated office is pretty nice. We're on the 30th floor now. Paid for by a vernacular school kid who was told he'd never amount to anything. Cool story, right? Peace out. Edit. Stop asking for Prisha's LinkedIn. Let's not harass anyone. Success is the best revenge. Edit 2. To the VCs sliding into my DMs, yes, we're raising Series B next year, but only from investors who judge talent, not pedigree. Edit 3. The scholarship program is now accepting applications. 200 applied in the first week. We're expanding it to 10 students, vernacular schools only.